In these problems, we are working on simplifying some radical expressions. And in this first one, looks like we've got a bunch of cube roots. So let's see what we can do about that. This first term, we have the cube root of 27x. Well, the cube root of 27 is 3. 3 times 3 times 3 is 27. So we could pull that out, taking its cube root, and that would give us 3 times, and what's left behind is the x there, so 3 times the cube root of x. So that's the first step. Then we have this plus 7 times the cube root of x to the fourth. Well, x to the fourth, you can think of that as x times x times x times x. There are 3 x's in there with 1 left over. I can pull those 3 out, or you could think of it like this. This is x cubed times x, and we're going to pull out the x cubed. So that's going to be 7 times x, and what we leave behind in here is just 1x. So that ends up being 7x times the cube root of x. And let's move on to the next one. We have negative 5 times the cube root of x. Well, there's nothing we can take out of there, so we'll just leave that the way it is. And then we have minus 2x times the cube root of x. And again, there's nothing we can take out from under the cube root sign there. But what we have now is basically some like terms. We have ones that are a number times the cube root of x. So there's that one and that one. So those could be put together just like you would, you know, a 3x and a negative 5x. That would be a negative 2x. In this case, it's going to be a negative 2 cube root of x. And then we have a different term. We have x times the cube root of x, and we've got a positive 7 and a negative 2. So that's going to be a positive 5 x times the cube root of x. And that is our simplified answer. Let's try another one. This one just has numbers, and it's square roots instead of cube roots. So let's see what we can do there. We've got 6 times the square root of 5 minus 2 times the square root of 36. Well, you should know square root of 36 is 6, so that's just 2 times 6. And then I've got 9 times the square root of 45. Well, 45, you could factor to 9 times 5, and the square root of 9 is 3. So we're going to take a 3 out there and multiply it by that 9. So that's going to be minus 27, and then what gets left inside the square root sign is just that 5. So minus 27 times the square root of 5. Now, let's see, this negative 2 times 6, that's negative 12. But then we have like terms here. We have 6 times the square root of 5 and negative 27 times the square root of 5. And we can combine those. So that would be negative 21 times the square root of 5. And that would be our simplified answer there, negative 12 minus 21 times the square root of 5. All right, let's try one more. Now this one's a little bit different. We have 3 over 3 times the square root of x minus 2 times the square root of y. And we don't like radical signs in the denominator, so we've got to get rid of those. Well, what you want to do in this case is something called multiply by the conjugate. So the conjugate of 3 square root of x minus 2 square root of y is going to be 3 square root of x plus 2 square root of y. We multiply the same terms but change the sign. If this was 3 square root of x plus 2 square root of y, we'd multiply it by 3 square root of x minus 2 square root of y. So if you have a minus b, then the conjugate is a plus b. The reason we're going to do this is because there's a rule called the difference of squares, which says a squared minus b squared equals a minus b times a plus b. So basically, when we multiply something by the conjugate, we end up with this thing. So let's try that. And, well, we can't just do the bottom, right? We have to do the bottom and the top by the same thing, because that is the same as multiplying by 1, which technically doesn't change the value of this expression. So let's do that. I'm going to multiply top and bottom by the conjugate. So that's multiplied by 3, well, I'm running out of room here. Let me rewrite it. So I've got 3 over 3 square root of x minus 2y. And I'm going to multiply by 3 square root of x plus 2 square root of y over 3 square root of x plus 2 square root of y. Now, when I multiply on the bottom, I just have to go by my difference of squares formula. So I'm going to get a squared. Well, a is 3 square root of x. That's going to be 9x. And then I'm going to have minus b squared. And b squared is 2 square root of y. So that's minus 4y on the bottom. So I've gotten rid of my radical signs. That's what I wanted to do. Now what do I, at least on the denominator, what do I get on the top? Well, I'm going to multiply this 3 by both terms. I'm going to get 9 square root of x plus 6 square root of y. And, whoops, and that is my answer. So that's a little bit with simplifying radical expressions.